Podcast. It is September 22nd. September 22nd, Bears Nation Podcast, Wednesday. Hello, YouTube. Hello, Twitch. Hello, Periscope. Today, what's going on? Welcome to Bears Nation Podcast. And ladies and gentlemen, are you ready for a show? Because we have a lot to talk about today. And are you ready for a show on Sunday? Because your starter for week 3 against the Cleveland Browns is officially, from Matt Nagy's mouth, Justin Fields will be starting his first NFL game in week 3 of the Bears season. The Bears' tenure for Justin Fields officially starts. Andy Dalton is week to week, according to Matt Nagy. He said some other stuff, some stoogish things that we will get to later in the episode. But the headline is obviously that Justin Fields will be starting week 3 and for the foreseeable future as Andy Dalton is week to week. Kevin, it's finally here. We finally have we knew it was going to happen. But we finally have confirmation that Justin Fields will be starting the game on Sunday.
We made it. We freaking made it, and it feels good. And I just feel like it feels like Thanos is like the Bears fan base, and we just got the final Infinity Stone. That's literally what it feels like, because
Not sure we want to be the villain, but okay.
Okay, well, you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean. It feels it's like we had everything comes together now. You know what I mean? Like the defense is starting to play a little bit better. We had things figured out with David Montgomery. The old line looks okay at the moment. I know it's a 2-game sample size, and it was really all these distractions about the quarterback position and the quarterback conversation. And that what was on the minds of everybody. And I have a feeling that that uncertainty in that area, which just happens to me in the most important position in all of sports, might have an effect on the rest of your team. So now that you have it nailed down, everybody in the building knows it's the right guy. It's a guy who exudes confidence, a guy who exudes swagger. It just feels right. And I think it changed the trajectory of this team. Like we talked about last week, you asked, how does this change the outlook of the Bears for the rest of the season, assuming they don't go back to Dalton, which we'll get to, which I don't think they will. And at this moment, we're not going to assume that they will. It changes everything. This is a legitimate team, and they're going to have a legitimate shot to win on Sunday against Cleveland.
Yeah, this changes your outlook for sure. I know people were worried about, would the Bears try some gamesmanship, try to keep the Browns guessing as to. I think this was the right move to just say, all right, yeah, Justin's the starter. There's no reason for the gamesmanship. Obviously, that could have even put more pressure on Justin. But I love the quote from Justin Fields. Immediately it says today, yeah, I've been preparing for this moment my whole life. I love it. I mean, and we knew he had that. I mean, you mentioned it, the swagger, the confidence. We knew that was there. And he immediately, he said, I'm ready for this challenge. And I've been waiting for this forever. And he has. I mean, we all saw the shots of week 1 of him on the sideline with looking like this, just holding on to his pads. Like, all right, when's it going to be? And so, yeah, I mean, it's clear that he's ready, and I'm glad that we have the clarity on the situation. And I mean, the thing that I want to, because a lot of people talked today, Jason Peters talked, Matt Nagy talked, obviously Justin Fields, but Jason Peters said something that stood out to me. And I mean, it obviously it's been circulating on The Athletic and other people's columns. And Jason Peters said, yeah, the kid can play. When he gets out in there and he calls a play, like, you can believe that he knows what he's doing and he's going to make it happen. And Greg, Jason Peters has been here for a month, maybe not even. And this is a guy who's probably going into the Hall of Fame. And he's saying this about your rookie quarterback, and he has nothing but praise for him. So, yeah, I mean, it's exciting to know that the players are excited. Kevin, you've been hounding this point all since Justin Fields was drafted. Everybody knows what he brings, and everybody's excited when he's in that huddle. And now you have people who are, outwardly saying it, because there were guys who were saying, oh yeah, well, Justin in practice, he's great. And then, he makes these plays in practice. Now guys could say, like, yeah, we believe in Justin. He's awesome. He's great. He's the best. And because he's the starter, and there's no reason to believe that is not going to change at any point this season.
And that's what I mean when I say, like, everybody is kind of on the same page here, because in the past, like, you saw people saying these things about Justin Fields more than they were saying them about Andy Dalton, even when Justin wasn't the starter. And just like by pure nature, that's a weird thing, because everyone's calling, even the guys on the team are saying their praises. And not like it's not like they didn't say their praises for Dalton, but it was exponentially louder for Fields. And now it's like, okay, these things are coming true. He's the starter. We can all be all in there, you hold nothing back. Like, it feels right. And it's huge, man. It's huge. And then you look at the X's and O's and what it brings to the table from that aspect. Like, I mean, I don't expect to see a completely different Matt Nagy offense. Obviously, we saw what happened in the first half, but I think this kind of plays into their situation perfectly. Like, he has gotten a half of football to knock off the rookie rust, the rookie mistakes that occur no matter how highly touted of a prospect you are. And you look at what happened in that game. Maybe it's better he committed 2 turnovers because now he knows those mistakes. He knows not to make them. And now all week he's watching film on, okay, when the rusher kind of, comes in a little bit and draws back, like, I know I can't target the running back there in that situation because that rusher is right there. Obviously, that interception happened that way. He knows now if I'm going to roll out and scramble, I got to have 2 hands on the football, not just 1 hand on it. It's too easy for it to get knocked out. Like, those 2 turnovers in just a little bit more than a half of game experience allows him to know what not to do. So that's why I think it's actually a perfect scenario for them, almost maybe even better if it was just a scenario where Dalton played both weeks, full game, 2 weeks, wasn't looking good. Now we're going to make Fields a starter. Maybe this scenario, although it wasn't planned, although it wasn't scripted, is better for them in the long run.
I mean, it's definitely better in the long run because we all knew the sooner you got Justin Fields in there as a starter was going to be, the sooner that your trajectory for the season went up. And we thought maybe week 4 or 5 was going to be the point, maybe later. And now you're right, this unscripted. But to your point about him making those mistakes against Cincinnati in a game that your defense was playing so well and they were able to win you that game because of, back-to-back Joe Burrow interceptions. But, and I want to circle back to that point because we saw it even in a game of him learning from his mistakes in the Cincinnati game. I forget which defensive end they were sending, but he had defensive end coming right at him. He saw it and got rid of the ball quickly as opposed to and I was reading a column and the writer pointed out a play from the preseason where Justin Fields had an edge rusher coming down on him and he tried to just escape. And that was the Bills game when he took that hit and his helmet got knocked off. So, and it was basically, they broke it down. It was basically the same play. And so that was however many weeks ago. And, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago at this point. And he's learning from that too. So to your point, I think that for sure, we're going to see improvement from Justin Fields and learning from those mistakes and again, I mean, we talked about it on Monday, getting the reps with the ones. We're not going to see, Darnell Mooney said he was behind that ball down the sideline by a half a step. That's not going to happen now because he has a full week of practice with these guys. The Allen Robinson drop, that's not, there's going to be, and granted that Allen Robinson ball had hit him in the numbers. That was more on him than the ball, but still that chemistry will be there. He has all this time to work with these guys and the fall starts too, full reps with the offensive line. Like I think we're going to see a much improved Justin Fields. Now, that's not to say, I mean, there's going to be rookie mistakes. Like, no matter what, we're going to see rookie mistakes from Justin Fields. That's why they're called rookie mistakes. He's a rookie. He's making his first NFL start. Now, has everything we've heard about Justin Fields, his toughness and how calm and cool and collected he is in practice. Yeah, I mean, we've heard all those things, but he's probably still going to make a couple turnovers. He's probably still going to commit a couple penalties. Like, the upside, though, is far and away more and outweighs the little rookie mistakes. Like, theoretically, you should be able to overcome those, even if your defense plays 80% as well as they did on Sunday against the Bengals.
Yeah, absolutely. The ceiling outweighs it significantly. And that's why I sometimes say, like, if you're throwing the ball around and you're trying to take shots, I don't care if you throw 1 interception as long as you throw 3 touchdowns. It doesn't matter if you make the 1 mistake as long as you overcome it with 3, good plays. So that's my outlook on things. But no, you're absolutely right. Like this, and I do find it funny too. The narrative of, the daunting defenses, that's been erased. It's been completely erased because, everybody said the narrative at the start of the season, week 1 was, we can't throw them out there into the fire against, Aaron Donald and Leonard Floyd and all of them. And then what they do, they set him up right there in the red zone. Aaron Donald came right at his face and he made a strike to Marquise Goodwin. So now I think people who are worried about that now can look at this game and say, although it was a few plays and then although it was, a half or so against a weaker defense in Cincinnati, still an NFL defense, though, we're a little bit more confident about him going up against Jadeveon Clowney, Myles Garrett, those guys on the edge, and, that Cleveland front seven, which is a good front seven, not phenomenal, but it's good for sure, especially when you look at those edge rushers. So I think that's important as well, is like he has faced the Aaron Donalds of the world, to even the Hendrickson on Cincinnati, who led the league in sacks and got after him a few times in that game. knows what he's facing from like an NFL speed defense, which was never an issue for him. He said that in the preseason that the speed was never an issue for him, so that's good as well. But those are things that were worrisome to a lot of people, especially when we were playing out the scenarios of where Fields would start. And now it's like, and this is why I say, as critical as we were of Nagy, again, this wasn't planned, this wasn't scripted, this wasn't the way it was supposed to be. As critical as we were of it, like, it played out perfectly. It played out perfectly for them because he got the reps. The injury happened. He got the reps in week 1. Although it wasn't ideal at the time, like in hindsight 2020, worked out perfectly for them. So he should be prepared. He should be ready. And I want to talk about what you said, John and Mooney, transitioning to that. This is going to be my bold prediction later. We'll save it. That I honestly think that connection between them two might be stronger than his connection with Allen Robinson. I truly could see that be the case. We saw a glimpse of it in Cincinnati. I mean, it's too early to say that for sure, but that connection is really, really exciting for me.
No, I could totally see that because also Darnell Mooney still, I mean, he's in his second year. I mean, so that could just be two young guys who know that they're part of the next 5 years for the Bears, that know they are. Whereas Allen Robinson, we hope he is. He's playing on that franchise tag. Obviously, we don't know his future, but that could just be two young players connected. But you're right. I mean, that's very, very important. I mean, you look at Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill. Look at Russell Wilson and DK Metcalf. Look at Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. It's important to establish that connection between a number one receiver and your quarterback. And so, I mean, I would love to see that. That would be absolutely fantastic. Before we start breaking down this game, I promise we won't talk about Justin Fields the whole time, but we need to address what Matt Nagy said today.
Let's do it.
Just really quickly for a couple minutes. He did say that the caveat of if Andy Dalton is healthy, or if he was healthy, he would be the starter. I mean, he's lying, right? I mean,
I mean, I don't know why.
If this is it, well, here's what I think it could be. It could just be, respectfully to Andy. Like Andy Dalton, like I said, he was playing pretty well against Cincinnati before he went out. It could just be hey, like Justin Fields hasn't technically won your job away yet. Because if Justin Fields plays well, the thing with Andy was if he's performing well and the Bears are winning, then he's going to be the starter. It should be the same for Justin Fields then. There's no reason that should change that. As long as Justin Fields is playing well and the Bears are winning, then he should be starting. And I would even go as far as to say is they don't even need to be winning. If Justin Fields is playing well, he should be starting because he's obviously the future, you hope, the next 10 years of this franchise. So if it's just hey, Andy, thanks, technically he hasn't won the job yet, so we're going to say if you were healthy, you'd be the starter, then I kind of get it. But that's what I'm worried about then. And I do believe that if Justin Fields plays well, he'll stay the starter. But it is just kind of like, why do you gotta, like you say, he's the starter?
Why do you gotta say it? I know. Like there's always that little asterisk next to it with this situation, and it's just like, dude, just be all in. And sometimes, like, you want to see that from your head coach. Like if you're a player, if you're a fan, like full confidence, full conviction. This is the way it is. He's the starter, no turning back. You know what I mean? Right. Like we see in front of us and are not looking back. That is what you wanted him to say. It's like, Justin's the starter. We're gonna roll with it. That's the way we're gonna go. I understand your point, and that's probably what he's thinking is, Andy played fine. We got to give him the respect. All that we talked about this before, but I do think in the back of my mind. Or in the back of Nagy's mind, rather, he knows like Justin's going to play well enough where it's not even justifiable for me to even possibly say Andy could be the starter at any given point. Like that's what he knows. And I think that is going to be ultimately what you're going to see. He's going to go on the mic 2 weeks from now after 2 games or 3 games of Justin and say, I said about Andy, but Justin has just played, well enough for us to win. He's played too well. We're gonna keep rolling with him as the starter. I mean, it's so easy for him. Like it's like Matt Nagy does not to complicate anything. Like the script is written for him for the next few weeks. Like I could be his press manager, write what he needs to say. Like it's easy for him to go on the mic and just say the right things. He continually doesn't do it, but. It's speak, it's talk. I don't think there was anybody who really bought into that. We know if Justin plays well, he's going to be the starter for a long period of time. Well, yes, for the rest of the season.
I think you're right. Everyone's on the same page. And so, I mean, let's start getting into it, and let's start with the injury report for the week. Obviously, Andy Dalton didn't practice, isn't going to play. thankfully, and honestly, a much shorter injury report than we've seen in the
Very
last couple
short.
of weeks. Jimmy Graham, of course, the standard, did not practice for the first day of the week. Veteran resting, whatever. The big one here, I think, who did not, as far as do not practice, Akeem Hicks didn't practice today, and that's listed as an illness. I imagine it'll be fine.
Yeah,
Knowing
it's not
Akeem
COVID.
Hicks, right? We would know if it was COVID.
Yes,
we would know that already. So knowing Akeem Hicks, I would say he doesn't even have to practice tomorrow for me to feel like he's not going to. I would say as long as he gets one in on Friday, then I would feel pretty good about him playing the Sunday, probably, right?
Yeah, I mean, an illness is one of those things where it's like you just have to do what you have to do to get better and make sure that you're as healthy as you are before Sunday. Take the Mucinex, take whatever you need to take, get the ample rest. You know what I mean? Because that's obviously a huge part of illness is just resting. So that's probably what you'll see, and they'll probably say it's a game time decision. See how he feels on Sunday. I mean, this has happened before. Keem, he's been sick in the past. Like a number of times, actually. Now that I think about it, it's like every year he's sick.
Every year with him.
Yeah, he's just sick at some point. I mean, hey, weak immune system. I don't know. It happens, but I'm not concerned about it. And then you look positive. It's Eddie Goldman limited. Darnell Mooney. Well, I know that's a positive that he was limited because he was limited last week. Yeah. So we're gonna have to monitor that.
Well, Darnell Mooney limited for one day last week.
Right. What do you make of Darnell Mooney being limited? What was listed there for the injury? Was it
groin,
ankle or groin? Okay, yeah. So I'm not too worried about that either. He'll probably play. He was questionable last week, ended up being healthy. Probably same type of deal. Let's take it slow. Let's take it easy. Not going to affect his game day status, in my opinion. So you're looking good on the injury report.
No, and I agree. Goldman, I think, is the next biggest one. I agree with you. Hicks, and the thing with Hicks, too, is that he's generally been a guy who, if he can go, even at 50%, he's going to go.
He's going to go.
I mean, we saw it with the shoulder injury in previous seasons. We've seen it with actual injuries, not even just illness before. So Eddie Goldman, that's a big one because while the Bears defense did play well on Sunday against the Bengals, having Goldman in there is just it changes your offense or your defense, so much. And we've talked about this.
Yeah.
Him practicing today is an upgrade because, he did practice for one day last week, then had a setback in between, like overnight between Wednesday and Thursday, and then didn't practice at the end of the week. So him starting out with a limited practice is a positive sign. I'm not going to get out in front of myself and say, all right, Eddie Goldman, as long as he practices the next 2 days, even if it's just limited, I expect we'll see him. And obviously that's huge because the Browns have a very, very aggressive and very good rushing attack between Nick Chubb, who is turning into a star altogether.
Already a star.
Hunt, and Kareem Hunt, who is also a very effective running back. So if Eddie Goldman's there, I mean, I got to see it the next 2 days. But as long as he continues to practice, I think hopefully you get your nose tackle, your anchor, your defense back.
Eddie Goldman and Mario Edwards returns from that 2-game suspension like we talked about. And here's why this is important. Obviously, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are the best running back duo in the NFL, and I don't think it's really close. Nick Chubb is a superstar, top 5 running back in the NFL. But you look at the Browns this year, and what I want to point focus to is what they do in the red zone offensively. They have by far the highest run rate and lowest pass rate in the red zone in the NFL this season. They run 82% of the time in the red zone and pass it only 18%. The league average of running in the red zone is 49%, 33% higher than the league average running in the red zone. So what are they going to do when they get inside the 20? They're going to run it at least 2 out of 3 times of the 4 out of 3 downs. You know they're going to do that. So if you want to prevent them from scoring, you want to bend, don't break, you want to hold them to field goals, you're going to need Eddie Goldman in there to stop that rushing attack because they're not only do they do it a lot, they're pretty successful. The success rate is pretty high on those rushing plays in the red zone. So you're going to need those interior guys to step up. So if there was any game where they needed Eddie Goldman the most out of these 3 weeks, the first 3 weeks, it's this one. So really, really monitor that because that's important. And we know how influential he is in stopping the run. I mean, this has been a good run defense thus far through 2 games, like a pretty solid run defense, I would say, thus far through 2 games without, your number one guy, I say, at stopping the run in Eddie Goldman. So if you get him back, you're feeling a lot more confident about what you can do to limit the Browns on offense because now you want to talk injuries. Let's look at the Browns side of it. No Odell Beckham Jr., he's not going to play. We're about 100.
I don't know.
It's unlikely.
He was a full participant today.
Full?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe he'll play, but Jarvis Landry is probably going to miss. He's sprained MCL. Out. He's out for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Landry's out. So even if OBJ does play, which it looks like he might, coming off injury, maybe not 100%. No Jarvis Landry. No Jedrick Wills, offensive lineman. He maybe. He's day-to-day with a road ankle. I can't say for sure he's going to be out. He's day-to-day with a road ankle. Might play. Buckeye fan 37 in here saying OBJ definitely playing. Okay, probably is. And then Baker Mayfield.
I think with Landry out, he definitely will.
Yeah.
If Landry wasn't hurt, I think they might be a little more cautious. But since Landry's out, I think they're going to say, hey, we need you.
I mean, I don't know. Jalen Johnson's been locking up everybody. I mean,
that's fair. He's been great. He's, I think, the 4th rated corner on PFF.
Yeah, number 1 rated corner last week, 4th rated over the season. And then I was gonna say Baker Mayfield got banged up last week. He got a little shot, and he ended up finishing the rest of the game. But there's always some things to monitor. So you have a serious opportunity to limit the Browns' offense and kind of make them one-dimensional if you do successfully stuff up the run, and that starts with Eddie Goldman. So obviously that's huge. But I mean, this is a talented Browns offense. They have talent around the board, but most of it comes from the backfield because it comes from Nick Chubb. It comes from Kareem Hunt in the passing game as well. And then they got Demetric Felton, who just comes in, and he's starting to make plays for them as that running back 3. But they are a little bit limited. They have Austin Hooper, but other than that, they're a little bit thin, you could say, at wide receiver if Landry is out and Odell Beckham Jr. is limited. So that's it really for the what I would say about how they can keep that Browns offense at bay.
Well, so that's going back to Eddie Goldman and Akeem Hicks. Assuming Hicks plays and hopefully Goldman plays, but regardless, you said you get Edwards back, and he was a big contributor last year, and the Bears defense played really well against Cincinnati. But the Browns offensive line is just a mess right now. One of their starting guards, Joel Bitonio, was limited today. Jack Conklin, their starting tackle, was limited today. Their starting center, J.C. Treader, did not practice, and their other starting tackle, Jedrick Wills, who you mentioned, also did not practice. So a lot of their starting offensive line is either banged up, and a couple of them did not practice today. And then one of their top backups also did not practice today. So even if you're missing Goldman, as long as you have Hicks, I would say, and you're getting Edwards back, like the Bears are going to have an opportunity here to get in the backfield, to have, keep Nick Chubb as controlled and contained as you can. But like you mentioned, Baker Mayfield got dinged up a little bit last week. And if you could hit him and make him uncomfortable, he was a full participant today, but still that shoulder injury might be bothering him. You don't know. But you hit him and you make him feel that shoulder a little bit more. I mean, and I'm assuming these guys who were limited today for the Browns on their, Conklin and Bitonio, I assume they will play still. But they're banged up on the offensive line. You have an opportunity here because, again, going back to the Bears injury report, Khalil Mack didn't appear on there today. Robert Quinn didn't appear on there today. Roquan Smith didn't appear on there. So, I'm assuming Hicks will be back at some point. So you're going to have all your dudes. So you have an opportunity here to take advantage of what could be a limited Cleveland Browns offensive line and really take advantage of their situation.
So what do you do? I mean, the Browns have been blitzed at the 5th lowest rate in the NFL this year. So with a banged up offensive line, with a limited passing threat, you better be blitzing a lot to help stuff up the run and get after Baker Mayfield. And the other thing, too, that I found interesting when I was doing this research is the Browns are 28th, meaning Baker Mayfield is 28th in the NFL, and rushing yards per scramble at 3.3. So what that means is they're getting after him, and he's not really making much out of the scrambles. So if you get to Baker, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's going on with him. It's 2 games of sample size, of course, but his scrambling abilities aren't comparable to that Justin Fields. So, get after him, get after the quarterback. And he's a guy who's going to force throws. He's going to force mistakes. That's what Baker Mayfield does. He's a solid quarterback, but he makes mistakes every single game. Every single game, Baker Mayfield's going to make some sort of mostly every single game. He's going to make some sort of ill-advised mistake by trying to do too much, by trying to make something out of nothing. If you get him under pressure, under duress, make him roll out, make him try to, do something magical, and it ends up in the hands of Eddie Jackson, that's how you're going to win this football game. I mean, they're averaging 2 giveaways per game. game. They've thrown 2 in each of the first 2, not thrown 2, but committed 2 in each of the first 2 games. And the Bears are going to need to get, I think, at least 2 if they want to come out with a win. But like we said, and it was evident last week, what does that start with? Starts with pressure. You have a healthy Robert Quinn, which I think could be having an impact based off of what we've seen. You have a healthy Khalil Mack, who obviously is going to show up. You have a flu game. Maybe we're looking at a flu game, Akeem Hicks, and then you have Mario Edwards and potentially Eddie Goldman. So the pressure should be there. Get Baker Mayfield under some duress, and he's going to make a mistake at some point. So.
Yeah, you have to build off of last week for sure if you're the defense. And, we've had our concerns about the corners. Kindle Vildor, not really sure what you have in him. Not really sure what you have in the corners outside of Jalen Johnson in general. But, they only have Odell Beckham Jr. and Austin Hooper. They're missing Jarvis Landry. Could potentially catch a break there. And if you pressure them, you're going to rush some throws, and maybe you don't let them get down the field as much as they would like to.
Yes.
And to Sean Desai's credit, after the LA game, I mean, there was definitely more pressure and there was more of an aggressiveness from the defense in week 2 against Cincinnati. So, they call him Doc for a reason. They call him a really smart guy. You have to assume he sees this and what Cleveland's dealing with as far as their offensive line goes. And you would hope dialing up some kind of plan of attack here to make Baker Mayfield uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's the Doc. He's going to do it. And what I find interesting, too, when I was kind of looking back at the game film and everything, was the things they were doing with Khalil Mack. Like, they had him lined up as an inside linebacker at one point. I remember he was lined up on tight ends a few times. So they're kind of moving him around a little bit. And I think Sean Desai is going to get creative.
Which is when he's been his most effective. You have him just go, okay, either behind the line or hand in the dirt, then it's kind of basic. Like, when we saw Vic Fangio here, he was doing that. He would have Khalil Mack go to the line, but then drop back or be in coverage.
And
Sean Desai, obviously a student of Vic Fangio. So that's when Khalil Mack is most effective. When you're not like Khalil Mack is not a shutdown, like he's not the best in coverage, but he's adequate. I would say and if you give him a little help over the top, then you can make it work. When you're moving Khalil Mack around and not really sure the offense isn't sure what he's doing or where exactly he's going to be, that's when he's at his best. That's what makes him a superstar. And we saw that last week, like you said.
Yeah, and you like to see that. You like to see more creativity. I think that's what Desai's going to do. We have Jake Carmel in the chat saying, now hammering the Bears. That's what we like to do here. We like to try to get you feeling good about where we're at. Now, Jake, I did it again. I said where we're at. This is what happened. I got to stop watching Matt Nagy press conferences. I really do. I got to start a counter for how many times he says it, and then find out how it rubs off on me.
Should we start like some kind of jar for you? We do this show twice a week now. Should we start some jar for when you say where we're at? You have to.
Did you take that from New Girl?
Yes,
the douchebag jar.
Yes,
yeah, we'll do a where we're at jar. We'll do a where we're at jar.
Where do I get all my material from, Kevin?
True. This is fair enough. This is if you know Jake at all, you know that's facts. But let's talk offense because Justin's here. That's what everyone wants to talk about. I know we finally got to it 28 minutes in. But I have so much written down here because there is a lot you can do. But here's the number one thing.
Kevin texted me today. I'm doing so much research for this show right now.
I mean, this is it, man. This is it. Like Justin's in. I don't know. I feel a little bit more motivated.
You've been waiting for this since he was drafted.
Oh, are you kidding me? I mean,
every offseason episode, it was he's got to start. He's gonna start. He's gonna prove it. I mean, you were hammering. He's gonna play so well in the preseason that they can't deny it anymore. And I had to try and bring you back. And sometimes I succeeded, sometimes I didn't. But you've been waiting for this moment since he was. And get Kevin, Ohio State. You go there, and blah blah blah. Like so, you've been just looking forward to this moment since the moment he was drafted.
Yes, no, I have.
I'm surprised you're not driving to Cleveland for this game.
Man, it's not that far. It's not that far.
That's what I'm saying.
I was intrigued, but I don't know. I don't have that kind of money. But anyway, so what we need to see from Justin Fields? What is going to make him successful? What are we going to need to see from him for him to have a good day? Yeah, we know the throwing ability's there, but if I'm Matt Nagy, we need to be seeing at least 6-7 designed runs for Justin Fields. And that was my biggest critique of last week's game. Like Justin Fields is Kyler Murray. Justin Fields is not quite Lamar Jackson, but he's Kyler Murray. And you look what the Arizona Cardinals. No. Justin Fields
Murray might win an MVP this year.
No, I'm talking about from a running standpoint, not from a pure quarterback standpoint. I'm just talking about from running ability. And I'm using him as an example because what Arizona does with him is really impressive from a designed run standpoint. And the Bears need to parallel that. Sometimes they do it more out of the spread. The Bears probably do it out of the spread, whereas like the Ravens do out of like a 2 tight end set. But like we need to see QB jet sweeps with 2 blockers either side. We need to see QB draw, with the running back leading the way, and then him just having to get past a guy one-on-one with the defensive back or something. Like this, you have to take advantage of his running ability. Like it can't just be 3rd and 9, pocket breaks down, scrambles. There's his running ability because the pocket broke down. No, you have to design these things. You have to get him on the run as a scripted play. You have to take advantage of it because he is so versatile and you can do so many different things. And on these RPOs and on these play action plays, like you can really fool a defense. And I feel like, again, it was one half of football. I don't know if Matt Nagy was taking advantage of it. I mean, did he call one designed run? I can't think of one if I'm going through it. So. And especially, and where does this come in to importance the most is the red zone. You know what I mean? Because you look, if I'm Matt Nagy, I'm saying, okay, when we get into the red zone, let's say inside the 10, we'll say inside the 10, and we have 3 plays here. One of them is a design run for Justin Fields. One of them is a throw to Jimmy Graham one-on-one, and then the third one is whatever the hell you want it to be. But I believe the success rate of those 2 plays, one of them working out or both of them working out together to score a touchdown is pretty high. So you got to look at design runs in the red zone. That is my number one thing, Jake. If you want Justin Fields to have a good day, I think he's going to need to have 70 plus rushing yards, and a lot of that has to come from not from scrambling, not from breaking away the pocket, but from designed quarterback runs.
Yeah, and I mean we've seen that when you have a mobile quarterback, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, design runs, you got to utilize it. And I would even say, I mean, obviously Justin Fields is passing. I mean, he didn't light the world on fire on Sunday, and granted, he was thrown. Into spot start action. And once Andy Dalton got hurt, they didn't have, obviously they didn't prep for Justin Fields to be starting the second half of that game, let alone whatever 60% of that game, however you want to break it down. I'm not a math guy, but I would say his running ability is probably ahead of his passing ability. Right now, he's probably a better runner than a passer as of right now. Sure. Week 2 against Cincinnati notwithstanding. So yeah, I mean, design the runs. We know he can make guys miss. I brought up the spin move that he busted out on Monday's show and made someone miss. You vaguely mentioned, or you made a reference to the 3rd and 9 run that basically sealed the game for you at the end of the game against the Bengals. So yeah, we know he can make guys miss. We know he's big enough and strong enough where he could, power through tackles and break tackles as well. So I think that they definitely need to utilize that. I think it will be though, because back to what I just said, you got a full week to be prepared and be like, all right, Justin's the guy. How do we best utilize his talents?
Yeah.
How do we game plan for this? Obviously, I brought up in the beginning of the show the connection with the wide receivers and, the connection on throws. But the running, too, you have a full week to know Justin Fields is your guy. You don't have to just limit him to these gadget plays and these, certain packages. He's going to be the guy. He's going to be out there the whole time. So you can utilize these in different situations based on what you're seeing. And I think we will. I do really think we will. But, I mean, we also can't, just disregard the scrambling ability because.
Well, no, I'm not disregarding it, but that's an asset.
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the thing is, obviously in a perfect world, he doesn't have to scramble too much, and Jermaine Ifedi and Jason Peters play well enough and at least hold Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney back enough where Justin can go through his reads and he's not running for his life. But that also might be a possibility. But I agree with you. You got to use his legs. You have to utilize just that natural athleticism that he possesses. And also that keeps the Browns on their toes. I mean, that keeps you, and not just the Browns, any opponent going forward too. If you utilize his legs properly, then you kind of have that off balance. They're not really knowing what to expect. And then you can, take advantage of that confusion.
Yeah, and when you talk about scrambling too, like where does that come in place? Obviously, it comes in place on 3rd down when he's getting pressure, but this is where I think the Bears should go for a lot of 4th downs this year, and especially in this game. We've seen it.
Willingness
right.
Yeah.
He's shown the willingness to with Andy Dalton. So you better believe he's going to show the willingness to with Justin Fields, because, say you want to run whatever play you want to run and things aren't there. Okay. You need 1 yard. Justin Fields is going to outrun anybody to get that 1 yard. So that's where, when you start to feel more confident. I mean, I've been watching so many games this year, and I feel like we're seeing the highest rate of 4th down attempts in the NFL in history, it seems. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. I have to do the research on that. But a lot more teams are going on 4th down now. And if you have a quarterback, a mobile quarterback, rather, it makes it a heck of a lot easier to do that. So that's one thing you're going to see. Now, what we also need to see, too, is play action. The Bears have the 3rd lowest attempts in the league on play action at 9. I mean, they have to do more play action rollouts, bootlegs, give Fields time to cook. I mean, this is a player who likes to give himself some more time in the pocket sometimes. So if you want to give him more time, especially as a rookie, you want to give him some space, roll him out. Give him more than 2 seconds with the pocket collapsing on him with Myles Garrett there to roll out, give him some room, and let him make throws on the run. I mean, this is what this guy does. Like, let him do the things that he's really, really good at. So again, like, that was one of those things where, I mean, how many bootlegs did we see against Cincinnati? None, right? Like, you have to see more of that. And like we said, like Jake says, when you can confuse the defense, and I said this last week, you have the perfect opportunity to do what the Rams did to us, with that play action bootleg to Van Jefferson, that type of thing. And it becomes a lot easier when you have a dual threat quarterback. So I would like to see more play action. I understand why maybe they're at their 3rd lowest attempts, because even if it is Andy Dalton, like, that's not necessarily an excuse for them to be 3rd lowest in attempts on play action. So more rollouts, more bootlegs, let him throw on the run, because that's where you're going to start to see those Sports Center top 10 plays is when he's doing that,
Right. And even when Mitch Trubisky was in top, we were begging. We were begging for this. And, granted, Mitch Trubisky was very limited as far as field vision and, his ability as a passer. And you would like to believe that Justin Fields has already passed that threshold. But no, you're right. And again, I think that just goes back to, you have a full week of practice. You have a full week to work all this stuff in and, know your game plan and know that Justin Fields is the game plan for, wire to wire for the whole game. So I think we should theoretically see it. I think also the running game wasn't as effective last week as it was in week 1. So that could have had something to do.
Right.
I mean, obviously you do have to establish the run, and David Montgomery didn't have as good of a game against Cincinnati that he did in LA. So that could also be a factor, which again, just goes back to what we've been saying for over a year now, dating back to last season. Run the ball. David Montgomery has gotten better every single year. Utilize him. He's one of your best players. He's probably, your best player so far this season on offense, at least. So utilize him. But yeah, I mean, I'm not, and that's why I kind of hesitate to look at the Cincinnati game too much, because, the game plan's going to change. Now that Justin Fields is just, oh crap, Andy Dalton's hurt. All right, Justin Fields, you're in. It's going to change. Right. It's going to look different. So I hesitate to pick apart the personnel choices and the game plan too much from, 3 quarters. We'll round up and say a game play of game action, but
yes,
I think it'll be different. And, we'll see what happens, but there's a reason to be excited. And obviously everyone is very excited for Justin Fields and what could potentially be a shootout.
It could be. I don't know about a full-on shootout, but more semblance of a shootout than we've seen in the past.
You expect a high score more than last week.
Yes, more than last week. Yeah. I want to say too, as we talk about offensive skill players and taking away things from the Cincinnati game, I think this is the Darnell Mooney game. I really do. Like, this is the game where the world discovers Darnell Mooney. And why do I say that? I mean, first of all, you look at the Cleveland Browns defense; they're allowing major yards to speed receivers through 2 games, allowing 197 and a touchdown to Tyreek first week, and then 78 yards and a touchdown to Brandon Cooks, who is getting thrown the ball by Davis Mills in the second half. And then you look at the trail route that Darnell Mooney ran multiple times on Sunday. So it's a part of what we call the Yankee concept, which we broke down in our YouTube. It is going to be the dynamite play for Justin and Mooney. I mean, they connected on it once. They attempted on it the other time when Mooney dropped it. And basically what it is you have that X receiver running a deep post and then taking away that free safety, and the speed receiver, the Z receiver, comes underneath and has a whole lot of open space near the sideline, about 15, 18 yards off the line. So you have a whole lot of room to make a play. And then if you get it to him fast enough, you can give that Z receiver an opportunity to get some yak 2 yards after the catch up the sideline or whatnot. I think that is going to be the dynamite play for those two. Justin Fields ran it a lot in college, and I think that's why they're running it now. But that's why I say that connection between them is there. Like, and based off of what we've seen from the Cleveland defense, they've been allowing a lot of yards to speed receivers. And going back and watching the film, they were allowing a lot of like, I'm going back and watching the highlights, and a lot of the plays, a lot of the chunk plays coming from the Texans in that game last week were slant plays. So you look at, Darnell on the slant plays, Darnell where get him the ball with space. He's going to cook that secondary. Buckeye Fan 37 says the Browns secondary is horrendous. I'm sure Mooney is going to feast.
So what would you consider a Darnell Mooney the Darnell Mooney game or a Darnell Mooney breakout game? What would you consider that?
Okay, so this was my bold prediction, so I'll kind of reveal it. I think he goes 130 yards and a touchdown. And I think that's what?
So just so we're on the same page, Darnell Mooney's career high as of right now.
70.
Do you know what it is?
66.
No, a little higher. 93 yards is his career high, which came on 11 catches against Green Bay in the last week of last season. His second highest is 69. Nice. So he's never he hasn't even broken 100 yet. So 130. I would love it. I'd be perfectly fine with that. But also, I feel like we gotta be a little careful. Like, this is a guy who hasn't caught a touchdown pass since week 14 of last season. He's only got 4 touchdown catches in his career, and his career high is 93 yards. I think Darnell Mooney could be a very good player. I really do. And I think with Justin Fields, like we talked about, that connection could really turn into something. But 130 yards, Kevin. You're right. It's a bold prediction.
Look, the Browns defense has allowed explosive plays this year. I don't know if you remember week 1, that huge bomb to Tyreek Hill, and then a few plays to Brandon Cooks and some other guys on that Houston offense. Like, it's going to be there. And we've been waiting. We've been talking about Justin Fields' deep ball ability. Maybe this is the game where finally Darnell Mooney makes somebody cook and he gets a ball on the money and runs it in for a touchdown. Like, if you get like 130 yards is easy if it's one reception that accumulates 70 yards and a touchdown. So maybe, like, if I'm going to say that number, I'll say there's at least a 50-yard touchdown, because without that, it's going to be hard to accumulate that many yards. But I don't know. This is like, based off of what we've seen for the past 2 weeks and knowing the Yankee concept and what they like to run, I just think that connection is really, really strong right now. And maybe he's just at the moment like more comfortable with Darnell than he was with A-Rob. I don't know if that's true. It just I think that's
let me
fair.
ask you this. Do you think then that this is the start of Darnell Mooney becoming the number 1 receiver that you think he's going to be, and kind of Allen Robinson? Because Allen Robinson, we know he's not a franchise tag.
Yeah.
We don't know his future. Then do you think this is the start of a Darnell Mooney blossom into a number 1 receiver? Or do you think, what is your expectation for him then for the rest of the season? Let's assume Justin Fields is the starter the rest of the way.
I'm trying to think of a good comparison, and I guess the best way I can put it that's sort of relevant is like Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy in Denver. Like, it's that kind of thing where right now that Allen Robinson is going to be your most reliable guy. He should be the most targeted guy. He should be the guy on third down. He should be the guy in the red zone because he's still the most talented receiver on the team by far. But you're going to see that development of Darnell Mooney skyrocket this year. And that connection is going to build for years to come. And we have no idea what's going to happen with Allen Robinson after this year. He may sign a long-term deal because he likes Justin Fields. He may want to just be done with the Chicago Bears and go somewhere else. Has nothing to do with Fields, just has to do with, him having interest somewhere else, or the money being better somewhere else.
And to be fair, we haven't heard an Allen Robinson is unhappy. Allen Robinson is pissed about we haven't heard any of that in a couple months. It's been a little while since we heard the last Allen Robinson news, which could be good or bad, but I guess in this case we'll look at it as a good thing.
Good.
In this hypothetical.
Yeah, so just going back to your point though, like he's not the number 1 receiver. He will not be the number 1 receiver, but just like he's going to be a guy who is going to be extremely important. He's going to start to rack up, similar numbers and similar target shares to that of Allen Robinson.
No, I can totally see it. I probably would lean more towards, Allen Robinson still being the focal point. But we've seen Darnell Mooney be that big.
Yeah, no, he's still the focal point. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's right. All right. Should we get into the rest of our bold predictions?
I have one more thing that I want to say, then we're going to go into it.
All right.
Cleveland is allowing a 62.9% conversion rate to offenses on third down. The worst clip in the NFL. Okay.
Shit.
And the Bears have the 11th highest third down conversion rate in the league right now. So you have, and especially when you consider Justin Fields' running ability, way better than last year. You're going to, I don't know, like you might see them stay on the field like a little bit longer. And with Cleveland struggles, like that's just something really important. Anytime you're last or first in something, you got to bring it up. And that's an area you really don't want to be last in. So it's horrendous third down defense for them. But I did my bold prediction. What do you got?
All right, my first one, it's one that I said for the first few weeks of last season until we kind of gave up on it. I think Eddie Jackson gets back into the interception column this year.
Okay.
This year, obviously.
So,
This week.
Well, what I just want to say real quick, I'll let you go on first.
I was just like last week, something about the way he played last week, just it seemed. First of all, I mean that tackle for loss, that big one in the game that we talked about, where it was a tackle for loss and came away saying, "Oh, who is that?" It's Eddie Jackson. I was stunned seeing Eddie Jackson walk away from the pile. So I think Eddie Jackson, maybe he's bought in a little bit more. Maybe Sean Desai's using him a little bit more creatively and better than Chuck Pagano did. So, you talked about Baker Mayfield being prone to those mistakes. We talked about the offensive line of Cleveland, how they're a little beat up. I think if you put Baker under pressure, he's going to make a bad throw, and I think Eddie Jackson gets back into the interception column this week. I'm not going to say he runs it back, but I think it's bold enough just to say that Eddie Jackson's going to get a pick at this point. Yeah, it's been however long.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, and I think, well, not I don't think I know. I mean, you said we know the stats. He's 10-0. Or we're 10-0. The Bears are 10-0 rather.
Jackson has an interception.
So if you're picking him to get an interception, I'm going to see how that influences your game prediction based off of that trend. I like that though. I mean, Eddie, it does seem, and that's why I'm saying like it seems like he's bought back in. It seems like the rest of the defense is bought back in. I don't know why. Maybe it is Justin Fields. Maybe it isn't. But it was a good thing to see last Sunday. I mean, you saw
a good game against a
solid offense.
Average, but yeah, a bottom half offense for sure. I mean, Joe Burrow is the most, he's a good quarterback and he's getting better, but a good game will do that to you. I think we're going to see this defense with a little bit of swagger, a little bit more confidence this week.
Swagger. I think I got my swagger back. I think that's what they're all saying. That viral clip from that high school football player. He says it. I love it.
We all know the clip, Kevin.
Maybe we don't. I mean, we have a lot of older listeners on this podcast who probably don't know who.
That clip's been around forever, though. I mean,
not forever.
At least 10 years old.
10? No shot. I was 11 years old when that clip came out. No shot. But he's looking it up. He's looking it up to prove me wrong because he loves it. To further the point, though, I forgot what
it was 3 years ago.
Okay, there you go. But yeah, a 10. My goodness gracious.
Well, there's one for some reason. There's one for you're not talking about the Dio Sale one, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, that one was 7 years ago, so I wasn't too far.
Oh, okay, 7. Okay, all right, whatever. But anyway, so they take that group photo, and that group that they took after they get the interception, and the last time we saw that was 2018, and that was like that photo just resonates with people as like good vibes, good defense. Like I think I don't know, it's just a photo. But it feels like it's unity. It's everybody's on the same page. We're all excited. We're energetic. We're getting hyped after the interception. We get the turnover bucket. It's all good. It's all great. We're back. We're buying in. We're feeding off this confidence and this energy. And no better time to build it. I mean, you're coming off a very strong game. They have every reason to come out of this game hot, come out of it with confidence right in the start, and stifle the Browns from the beginning. And if the Bears get a lead, that's going to be instrumental into winning this game. So I love that. Takeaways, they're going to need 2 of them. They better get 2 of them, maybe 3, maybe 4, and they got to get after it. Now, my other prediction, I have another one. It's not that bold, but I think Justin Fields gets a 30-plus yard run. I think he gets one of the, either on a designed run or a scramble, he gets out and he gets free and he goes big. And one of the things I kind of want to say to stem off of this as well is, there's people who are always worried when you have a mobile quarterback, the old traditionalists, the old geezers of the world, like, oh, he's going to get hit. He's going to get hit when he runs. He's going to get lit up. And this is what happened to Deshaun Watson and all that. Quite frankly, through 2 games in the preseason, Justin Fields has been basically untouched on a majority of his runs. Why? Number one, he has an impressive baseball background, so he knows how to slide and when to slide, and you saw that on Sunday. And number two, he's just fast enough to where he's going to run by everybody and get out of bounds. I mean, did you ever watch Kyler Murray get hit? Kyler Murray never gets hit on the run. Never. Because he played baseball as well. He's a first-round draft pick. He slides whenever he needs to. He runs out of bounds. Russell Wilson, same deal. Baseball background. Fair. Fast guy, never gets hit. So there are people who are like, don't run him. Going back to my earlier point about design runs. Don't design runs. He's gonna get hurt. He's a young quarterback. Wear and tear. He's gonna die out there. What are we doing? Let's have him sit in the pocket like Tom Brady. All this, lame ass stuff. Justin Fields is too fast. Get him on the design runs. He's gonna have a 30+ yard run, and it's gonna be amazing. And I can't wait. So lock it in. Not a touchdown run, but a 30-yard run at some point.
All right, that's fair. I also have another one.
All right, fire away.
Mine goes back to my first one was defense, obviously, with Eddie Jackson. Do you happen to know what Cole Kmet's career high receiving yards is?
34.
45. But
okay, close enough.
Again, pretty damn low. And this is a guy you spent a second-round pick on. But also, back to our point about Darnell Mooney, younger guy, in his second year. Justin Fields obviously is going to be here for a long time. You're hoping Cole Kmet's going to be here for a long time. Kmet had 1 catch for 0 yards last week.
Wow, that's impressive.
But he's been out snapping Jimmy Graham far. Like Cole Kmet is clearly tight end number 1. And, they're trying to work him into play more. I think Cole Kmet gets, sets a new career high, which I mean, he'd only have to get 46, but I think he gets a touchdown too. I think he gets his 3rd career touchdown as well from Justin Fields. I just think we're going to see this. I thought about going Jesse James for a second.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Come on.
I thought about it, but that felt a little too because also part of me, this is a little self-serving too. Like I think if you want to Justin Fields to play well this year, but also going forward, you need to establish this connection with Cole Kmet as well. Because, we talked a little about earlier, it's so important for a quarterback to have that number 1 wide receiver, but to have that number 1 tight end. All the best teams, I mean, look what San Francisco is able to do. Look what Kansas City is able to do. Look what Tampa Bay is able to do. Look what the Saints were able to do in Jimmy Graham's prime when he was, when it was just him and Gronk as the top 2. I mean, to have that athletic, I'm not going to call Cole Kmet elite. Obviously, he doesn't have the numbers for that, but I think the athleticism is for sure there. It's just a matter of using him. Hopefully, with Justin Fields in the game, you can use him to do a little bit more. I know Jimmy Graham's your guy. I'm sorry, but I think Cole Kmet, I think you get him involved a little bit more. I think new career high. So I'll say 50, 50 plus, somewhere in the 50 to 60 yard range and a touchdown for Cole Kmet.
Okay. I think the last time we made a bold prediction on Cole Kmet, we won people a whole lot of money. So hopefully,
we did. I forgot about that.
Hopefully that trend continues.
Wasn't that the Carolina?
That was the
game?
Panthers game where it was. We presented the prop that he was going to score a touchdown, and a lot of people actually took him for first touchdown score of the game, which is like plus 2,500. We had multiple people come to our DMs after the game saying, "We listened to the podcast. Thanks, you won me $2,000."
That was wild.
And I was like,
I forgot
unbelievable.
That.
So if you want to win $2,000, listen to Jake. That's what I'm trying to say here. I mean, you're right. Like he should be getting snaps. I think the thing that's weird though is like, I don't know. I would have to go back and look at this too. It doesn't seem like they're running a lot of 2 tight end sets. I'd like to see a 2 tight end set with Jimmy Graham and Jesse James. Or not Jimmy, sorry, Cole Kmet and Jesse James.
Well, I'll take either one.
Either one. Any combination. Sure. Any combination is fine. And hopefully that does change. But like if you do look back at that game, and he had a target to Cole Kmet that was taken away by penalty. It's just he's not getting looked at as much on, but again, this is an offense that has a lot of targets. Like it has a lot of people on the offense you can throw to. And I don't like tight end is one of those positions, especially when you're a 2nd round guy, where it typically takes years for you to be a staple of an offense. Like it's typically how it goes. Like unless you are someone drafted, like, I mean, George Kittle was a 2nd round tight end too. So I guess I can't really use that as an example, but
it's like you're saying, and I mean, last year you just kind of had to go to Allen Robinson a lot and pray because you didn't or dump off to David Montgomery because, Mitch Trubisky or whoever, Nick Foles was either couldn't throw the ball down the field or was running for their lives. So you're hoping for better results and, more time to do more creative things this year, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I just think, Cole Kmet theoretically should be number 3. The 3rd option in this offense behind Robinson and Mooney, maybe 4.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. He should be. I mean, he should be. He should. I mean, that's a second round draft pick in his second year. He should be number 3. I just don't know if it's there yet. But again, we'll see. Like, we don't know. Like, we don't know the chemistry that Justin has with these guys, aside from what I mentioned about Darnell Mooney, because we saw it in a half. But other than that, like, he is going to now have the full week. And although, it was Jesse James because he was practicing with the second and third stringers out throughout preseason, right, which in retrospect looks fucking stupid. What the hell? Why, if we were getting him first team reps, we could have been more prepared for this moment, but that's beyond the point. But now, you don't know who's going to be comfortable with, and it's not just practice, it's in the game. So coming out against Cleveland, say he has a few good balls to Cole Kmet early on, like that sets the tone for the rest of the game, because this is his first official NFL start. He feels a good connection with somebody. He's going to have more trust throwing to that guy for the rest of the game and maybe for the future. So this is why in a lot of ways, this game kind of sets the tone for who he's comfortable with. I mean, he took the shot to Allen Robinson. I'm not worried about that. Like, I feel like I'm kind of leaving him out of this whole conversation as much as I talk about Darnell Mooney, Allen Robinson. But, and there was also that third down play where it was a quick out route really, but, Allen turned it into a first down. So that's going to set the tone. But I'll go with both predictions. You got anything else?
I do not. Let's get to our game. Let's go
game predictions, baby.
Game prediction.
Let's go game predictions, baby. I'm hyped for this. I don't know where you're going to go.
All right. So the Bears are getting 7.5 points against the Browns. I'm a little surprised by that number. I'm
7.5?
Surprised. Yeah. 7.5 on FanDuel Sportsbook right now.
Bro, let me give me a hammer that spread, that. Please. Take that spread.
No, and I think that's a little too much. Obviously, Justin Fields is new. You don't know exactly what you're going to see. It is at home in Cleveland, but, I think I'll go first. I mean, I think with the way that the Browns are beat up, they're a little banged up. I do think the defense played so well last week, and it does give me a better, it makes me feel better about where they're at. I think you win this game 31-24.
Let's fucking go. Oh, Jake?
No, I lied. 31-27.
Okay. I like it. No matter what, a win is, that's what I like to hear from you, my man. I love it. Injected in my veins.
You came into the show thinking I was going to go Browns, didn't you?
No, I actually didn't. Like, I didn't know exactly where you're going to go, but I had a feeling like at the end of it, your realism would like come to play and you would be like, nah, I can't do it.
I'm going to go the optimistic way. I just think that a lot of things line up your way. Like, Cleveland has so many offensive linemen banged up. Baker Mayfield's banged up. Jarvis Landry is out. OBJ's coming off a torn ACL. I think there's a lot of matchup possibilities here for the Bears. And obviously Matt Nagy, it's about Matt Nagy taking advantage of that. And that's what's scary about this.
Yeesh.
But
Yeesh.
I think that, Justin Fields, the full week of practice, you open up the playbook. I think the Bears finally get over 30 points again, 35-27. That's going to be my final.
Oh, you're going 35 now. You said 31.
31.
31.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so you mentioned OBJ real quick. One thing I wanted to say, people who are going to say, he's going to come back and be his old self. You see how Saquon has played the first 2 games? Yeah. Coming off an ACL injury, it doesn't happen right away. So that's important to know. But I got to go with you. I mean, right now, like this team under Matt Nagy, we've said it for years, and it's more prevalent now than it is ever, is built off of momentum, built off of confidence, and built off of swagger. And that was never the case with Mitch Trubisky, partially because he wasn't as successful, partially because he just wasn't that kind of guy. He just wasn't that guy who exuded that confidence. Justin Fields is that guy. Yeah. The defense is back. You have all the momentum in the world. I mean, that's why I don't understand 7.5, because right now going into this game, you got all the talk about Justin Fields.
I think
you got
the
defense coming off
It'll
that
probably
game.
Move.
It should move. I don't know what it was before they named Justin Fields the starter. I don't know if that had any impact on it. You would imagine it did, but for those reasons, for everything I presented throughout the past hour, I'm going Bears 27-24. Carlos Santos game-winning field goal as time expires. Lock it in. Lock it in. Justin Fields leads them down the field with like 1:10 left. They get into field goal range. Carlos Santos 46-yarder to win the game. Boom.
All right. So I have a career game from Cole Kmet on my docket. Kevin has a career game from Darnell Mooney on his. We both have the Bears to win. I don't know the last time that happened, but we are back. I think we are going to – it's going to be an interesting game. I think we're going to like what we see regardless of the result, obviously hoping for a win. But we will be back on Monday to break it down, to go over everything, to go over the Justin Fields debut, to go over the debut of the new Bears, the new era of the Bears, if you will.
New era.
So for myself, for Kevin, shout out to YouTube, shout out to Twitch, shout out to the Twitter viewers, shout out to the people who commented. We love you all. We'll be back Monday to break it all down. See you then. As always, bear down.
Bear down.